out. I know you guys hear me say this all the time, that I consider you all to be my family, but I really, really do. And I just love you guys, and I love that your spirit and your motivation, because without you guys, we wouldn't have been able to do anything that we've accomplished and plan on accomplishing in the next year. I can't do it by myself. Daryl, Miranda, and everybody give Miranda a round of applause. But we couldn't have done any of this without you guys, and I love you for it, so thank you. And give yourself some round of applause. And I'd like to introduce our special guest, and his resume is so extensive that I have to read it off my phone, so be patient.
Read it on your phone.
Commander Mundell has, everybody needs to know, because we saw the stars last night. You don't have them on today. So, Commander Mundell has been shot down 11 times during combat. He's been awarded the Silver Star, the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Bronze Star Medal for Valor, the Air Medal for Valor, the Army Commendation Medal for Valor, and 4 Purple Hearts along, and that's just a small inkling of his awards. He served 2 combat tours in Vietnam, and he worked since then as an instructor and advisor in Iran, Iraq, Israel, Afghanistan, Africa, and South America. He is the past state commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and was recently elected vice chair of the Missouri Association of Veterans Organizations. The first time I met Mr. Mundell, he was testifying in favor of the medical cannabis bill in Jefferson City. Unfortunately, that bill did not get moved past that point, basically, for various reasons. Not necessarily a bad thing, and if you have questions, let me know and I'll explain that later. Not very often, because I hear stories all the time, it's not very often that people move me to tears. He did move me to tears, and he has some important things to say and some important things that we need to know. So,
thank you very much. I would love to say this has been a long road for me, but in reality, it hasn't. I didn't get involved in this till just a couple of years ago, in reality, and the reason why I got involved was because I was approached by numerous veterans' family members saying suddenly that they were scared to death that their family members were going to be put in prison. And I didn't really know what they were talking about, because I will preface that statement by telling you why I was even talking to that person. I had, as I was coming up in the VFW, we had a lot of catastrophically injured veterans. I'm not supposed to exactly explain what their total injuries were, but I will just say that they're unable to use their arms or their legs, and they are in very bad condition. For 7, 8, 9, 10 years, they were all very strong and able to handle everything, but through time, when all the hoopla of their return and all the people that was around them every second slowly but surely dissipated away, it left these people in a void. And I kept visiting them, and you can, when you're in that kind of a condition, you don't want somebody coming in the room and saying, hey, how you doing, having a good day today? Because you're not having a good day. You're not living, you're existing in hell. Because you feel like you're a bowling pin, you feel all kinds of catastrophic thoughts in your head, but you try to stay strong, but you just don't see a future. And it became worse and worse and worse in these people, to the point that they were trying to pull out their feeding tubes and stuff with their teeth. They were begging their family members to actually end their lives. When I was approached by this lady, I had this young lady first, this one young veteran, beautiful young girl. She had long hair and a very pretty face and everything, but from her breast down, she is shredded. They set an IED off on her in Iraq, and blew her arms and legs off, and really messed this girl up. And she became a very good friend of mine, and of course I said as many things as I possibly could to build up her confidence in herself and build up whatever I could. But you know, you just don't know what goes on in people's heads until you live a life like that. There's no way any of us in here could ever feel the way they feel. But to cut this story short, what happened was, one day I went back, and this was the 19th time I had seen her. I can even tell you how many times I saw each one of these people. And there was quite a few, 20, 30 of these people that I was seeing to about 5 different states. And one day I went there, and she said to me, she goes, you've always said no matter what I ever asked you to do, you would do it. You've always been honest. You've always told me the truth. You told me that God did that. This happened for a reason, that God would give me the strength to endure it so I could set a good example. And she says, I really feel I've done that, don't you? And I said, yes, I do, hon. And she goes, I want a second chance. And if Jesus and God is everything that you say He is, that you've been telling me He is for the last couple of years, then He's going to give me a second chance as a whole woman the second time around, and I want it sooner than later. And she goes, what I'd like for you to do is, I want you to come back in about a week after my mom and my brother and sister come visit me, and I want you to come back and see me one more time, and I want you to do one thing. And I said, what's that? She goes, I want you to squeeze that blue hose shut for 4 minutes and turn around and walk out of here and never come back. I don't really remember leaving her room that night. I don't remember it. I just remember ending up on the side of the highway where my own daughter had died, my firstborn daughter that I had delivered when I was 17 years old, in my hands. And I started thinking about her and everything that had happened, and I just couldn't go back. I wasn't man enough. I can fight a war, I can pull a trigger, I can hunt people down all over the world, but when it comes to dealing with a personal issue, I couldn't do it. And I had no emotions. That was the bad part. Months and months and months went by. Almost a year went by, and I got this phone call, and this lady wanted to pick me up at 7 o'clock in the morning. She said she had something very important to talk to me about, and I said okay, and it was a mother of one of these catastrophically injured veterans. And she picked me up, and we started driving, and she scared me to death. She goes, we're going to go to this house, and she goes, there's going to be some people that you know there, and she goes, we're going to ask you something. But before we ask you that, and ask you for support of this, we want your word that if you decide not to go along with this or support our effort, you will turn around, walk out of that house, and never tell anybody what we wanted you to do. And my friends, I knew she was going to try to get me to support euthanasia, because that's what was going through my sick head, you know. I get down there, and I'm scared to death to even walk in the house because there's 10 cars sitting out there in their driveway, and I walk in the house, and remember the parents of these young veterans. Their parents always have tears in their eyes. You can see the terror in their eyes. You can see the loss feeling in their eyes. I walk in this house, and this house was normally very dark inside. The young man that's living in this house that is one of the catastrophically injured veterans always had a very dark room with just a blue light in there, you know, and it was very quiet. I walk in, everybody's laughing and talking, and all of a sudden the mother of this young girl comes running up to me, and she goes, I'm first. And I said, first for what? And she goes, I've got an iPad, you've got to look at this iPad story from my daughter. And so I looked at it, and here's this young lady comes on, and she goes, oh, Tom, I love you so much. And she goes, first of all, before I go any further, she goes, we're really going to need your support, but I want you to know how sorry I am that I never asked you how you were, and how much sorrier I am when you asked me how I was one day. I let you have it and told you how I felt. And from that moment on, we never communicated about how we felt, because we both knew that each other was totally uncomfortable in the skin that we were wearing. Well, she's laughing on here. I've never seen her laugh. And she said, please support this effort. And all of a sudden I hear this young man yelling from the other room, Mundell, Mundell, Tom, Tom. And I walked around the corner and here's this young man in the bed and there's a TV monitor next to him. And I had seen this TV monitor on the iPad next to her bed and I couldn't see what was on it. But lo and behold, when I got there, when I went into his room, it was her. And he goes, are you trying to steal my woman? And I couldn't breathe, you know. And I go, what? He goes, are you trying to steal my woman? And he goes, I know I don't have everything that a man has anymore. And he goes, but one thing I've learned and one thing she's learned, it takes more than sex to make a relationship and love between two people. And he said, we're going to be the first two quads that ever got together and lived happily ever after until we're both reincarnated into four-legged beasts. That's what he said. He was just joking, you know. He thought four would be better than two. But anyway, he said, he goes, we really need your support and everything. And he goes, hey Mom, ask Tom how many pills I used to take. He just blurted this out right then. And I go, what? And she goes, he doesn't know how many pills you took. And I said, yes ma'am, I do. I said, when I left months and months and months ago, he was taking 98 pills a day. And he said, tell him Mom how many I'm taking now. And she turned to me and she goes, he's taking 11 pills now. He's taking 4 because he had a kidney transplant for an organ rejection. And the other 7 he's taking is for inflammation that's from wounds on his body, you know, from amputation areas and stuff. And that's all he's taken. He's taken no antipsychotic drugs and absolutely no pain medication. I'm freaking out, and all these people kind of gathered around me like a little coven, you know, and I'm kind of freaking, and they all got their iPads, and they're holding these up, and for 2 hours, they expected me to listen to what their young people, their young family members had to say, and I did. I listened to it, to the point that I couldn't stand it anymore, and I said, my God, what's made these changes? Because these people are all laughing, the family's back there talking, and this, that, and the other thing, and they go, we don't want our children to go to prison, and we don't want to go to prison. And I said, for what, Jesus? And he goes, we were introduced to medicinal cannabis and the CBD oils. That's what's changed our lives. I hate to say this, I had no clue what they were talking about. I know what cannabis is, of course, but they were saying CBD oils and all this, that, and the other thing, and I said, wait, I said, I don't know what to do. I said, I don't have the experience. I'm not your spokesperson. And they said, but you said in Jefferson City, when you were talking to the Senate one day, that when a leader is uncomfortable about something that's brought to him to make a decision on, that leader needs to set his personal feeling or her personal feelings to the side and educate yourself, gain knowledge, and hopefully the wisdom to make the right decisions in the future for the masses of people that you will be affecting. So she threw that in my face, and I've been told that not only by my dad, God love his soul, but quite a few people that's in government right now that should have listened to their own message that I heard from them. But they said the same thing, and so I started doing that. I went to Colorado twice, I went to Washington State twice, Oregon, I went to Alaska. I did 6 or 7 trips to Washington, D.C., all on my own dime, trying to analyze what the situation was. I talked to the governor of Colorado, I talked to lawmakers, I talked to citizens. I interviewed 137 people from all walks of life. That was all around the dispensaries, but it was in all these different states where it was legalized, because I wanted to know why they were there. I had 5 questions I asked all these people, the same exact questions. And the really strange part was the first 37 people I interviewed, and I didn't typecast anybody. I guess the 2015 term is I didn't, what? What was it? Yeah, profile. I wasn't profiling anybody, but the first 37 people I encountered were veterans. And the next 3 was 2 wives and a husband of veterans. And I asked, the first question I asked, why are you here today? And every single one of these people that I talked to said, we're here to get relief, we're here to get help. And this is what gives us that relief and helps us deal with our life and our pain. Nobody said, use the H word. Nobody said they were there to get high. Nobody ever, the whole time I was in Colorado, believe it or not, I don't remember, and I know you may not believe this, but I don't remember ever hearing that word spoken in Colorado, even up in the Springs and stuff. Even at the medicinal places and at the recreational areas, people were there. They wanted to feel better than they were feeling before. And it seemed like everybody was quiet, everybody was in control. And one of the biggest shocks that people had this last month and everything was in Denver, when they had the big thing in Denver, and everybody thought there was going to be all kinds of hoopla, 1960 flower children doing flip-flops all over the place. It was probably the most mellow, quiet place you've ever seen. When they had the Hemp Fest, and it wasn't the Cannabis Cup up there. It was unbelievably controlled. Everybody was happy, everybody got along, and there was no confusion or ignorance there whatsoever. Now, I came back and I had to step out of my shell as a leader, and I had to somehow deal with this. And John Payne, and which I'm sure a lot of you know, and Ethan Fampe, I can't even name, I hate to mention just those two, but there's a lot of people that's inspired me to step forward and to do what I've been doing. And I testified in front of the House for my first time, but that wasn't the first time I testified. All those people up there in the House know me in the Senate because I've been dealing with these people up there for the last about 10 years on veterans issues. I've testified many times. So I told them up front, I said, I'm uncomfortable be sitting here right now. And that was the first time I testified on 800. And I was uncomfortable because I was concerned, I guess. I don't know, I guess I was concerned for myself. I was concerned with losing respect for the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, because I was representing them, because no matter if I had my uniform on or I don't, having been a state commander, you're always a state commander till the day you're dead. You're expected to set the right example and be the right type of person. That's what I think I'm actually doing. This has changed my life. I lost a son because I was an idiot and said the wrong things to him at the wrong time. I lost my wife for the same reason. I caught them both smoking pot years and years and years ago, and I jumped their asses and told them, you can't do that, you're setting a bad example for the kids. And I told my son, he had a traumatic brain injury from the Persian Gulf War, and I said, son, we're trying to get you through the VA system. You urinate dirty, and it's going to throw us out, and you will not be able to get your benefits. And I was losing him. I knew I was losing him. I needed help for him, but he had to get through the system first. And he said, Dad, this is the only thing that relaxes me and it helps me sleep. I'm taking all these pills from VA, and he goes, it's making me psychotic. He goes, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. 11 days later, I found him dead. Why? Because I found him with a half pint of vodka that he drank on top of his meds to help him sleep. And it killed him. And I found a letter, not a letter, but just a piece of paper with 39 times it was, that's how old he was. I don't think there was any, I think that's just because he was starting another sentence there too. So it means nothing to anybody I know, but the note said, Dad, I quit smoking pot. Dad, I quit smoking pot. Dad, he wrote that down all those times on there. And it still didn't click all that much to me. I was just mad at the world at that time. I didn't come to the realization about this, about my son, my daughter, my wife, and myself, the changes that came into myself, till this happened, and I testified and came to terms with myself and realized how my whole life had been affected because of 50 years of prohibition, when for the last 50, 60, 70 years, we could have been doing all kinds of research and analysis and probably had one of the most medicinally natural alternatives to mankind. And I'm not saying it's a catch-all, I'm not saying it's a cure-all, I'm saying that we need at least the ability to let science and medicine, the medical people, do their research and see what all we can find out about just, if you believe in God or if you don't, somebody put this plan on this earth, and not trying to be funny, but who knows what bush was burning when Moses got the 10 Commandments. Who knows? I'm just kidding. I said that last night too, so people go, oh, Moses. And then they started thinking, oh, the burning bush, oh yeah, there was a burning bush in the Bible, But anyway, weird things come in your head, and you start thinking about your past, and you start thinking about things that's occurred in your life, and that's why I had to come to the realization how big of an idiot. I can't even say the names for myself that I realized I was in my own family, because I certainly wasn't a dad. I wasn't a husband. Because had I been, I would have been able to communicate effectively and been able to say the things that would have been the right things to say at that time. One thing that cannabis and the oils and things do is it causes you to not be able to hold back your emotions. I never had emotions. Even when I lost my son, my wife, I don't really remember shedding tears. But something else I never realized that was said to me by my wife and my daughter's mother and one other person in my life, they never saw me laugh. They said, you smile once in a while, you find humor in things, but you never laugh. You have no feelings. That's all changed now. And I wish I could say, hey, VA saved my life. The Veterans Administration, the hospitals, they saved my life. They put me back together. I was in a wheelchair. I was all shot up. I was blind in my right eye. They physically put me back together. Physically. But I have to say that I now have to admit that the reason that I'm able to stand up here and talk with you all right now, and I am the person I am within myself now, is because I break the law. And I think that's terrible. I think it's terrible that we have to say something like that, or I have to say something like that, because the last thing we should do is push this in the public spaces. We should not push this into the public spaces, except we should push push the issue that we need to make changes in our government, so this is an accepted alternative that we all have medicinally. And as far as I'm concerned now, I'm a full supporter of recreational, and the reason why I say that is because of the tremendous changes in attitudes of a large masses of people now that was in pretty tough environments, that was addicted to heavy drugs, heroin, etc., and their lives have changed, and they've been able to not only get away from the hard narcotics and the heroin and stuff, but they did it without withdrawal symptoms. They did it without much of an effort other than the CBD oils seem to reduce the itch that they call that they have, as well as the overwhelming push to constantly do something like that. And the withdrawal symptoms just went away. Now, I'm not saying that's going to help and do that for everyone, but I will say that it has effectively done a lot of good things for a lot of people. And I wanted to talk about 800. 800 was a tremendous bill. It was the first one that was brought out, and the people that wrote it had the best intentions in mind. However, it was so restricted that even proponents that wanted it passed stepped back and said, look, and even though they were saying in the beginning, look, we'll get it through, we can make changes later, we can get amendments on it. There was so many things that needed to be amended, and they really feel that we have support of the masses of people in the state of Missouri now, and we even have a lot more support in legislation now, and more legislators will come on board with us as these months go by leading up to the national elections and everything. And if we get out there and we get these petitions signed and we get this on the ballot, I'm a firm believer that the people will make this happen as it should be. I think Congress will see it our way. I was with Rand Paul last night. No matter how you may feel about that man, just like I used to feel about cannabis and things like that, you have to educate yourself. You have to find out what these people are all about and not listen to the press. And I'm telling you, he's the best man for us right now because he's got the future of the people of this country at hand, in his heart and his soul. And his dad had some visionary concepts. He's got some visionary concepts. A lot of people don't have the guts to stand up for those visionary and futuristic changes that he feels need to be made. But he wants to get big government out of our lives as much as he can. You don't find too many politicians that want to do that. They may say they do, but he stands on, he's got a record of that, and so does his dad. But he is fully supportive of getting rid, and he's supporting bills right now on the national front to get rid of the national prohibition of cannabis and hemp nationally so the states can make that decision. Keep that in mind. When the other thing about don't lose respect or get upset because that bill is set to the side. The next few months, we need to stay strong and keep and persevere and stay focused as to what we really need this state to do. And we need medicinal to be passed as soon as possible. I'd like to ask if there are any questions or anything I went over up to this time, or if you have any personal questions you'd like to ask, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Come on, somebody's got to have a question first.
Okay.
Well, we touched on it last night, Tom. Can you let us know what you're going to do through the VFW to possibly make them make a decision?
I'm going to, on Monday, tomorrow, I'll be in Jeff City, and I'm going to meet with the Missouri Adjutant Quartermaster, and I'm going to talk to him about writing a resolution for full support of the Veterans of Foreign War for the Department of Missouri to be brought to our national convention, to our state convention this coming June 4th, and see if I can get that backing, and then follow it up with an initiative to submit a resolution to the national, like Kentucky tried to do a couple of years ago, but they just backed down at the last minute. I was really excited back then in a way, but just because it was so unique. But there was no way I thought that would pass, and I wasn't part. I mean, it wasn't even part of my life, so I didn't even think about it back then. But Kentucky was ready to do it, and I'll be in touch with them and see if we can get some other states to do it. But if we all step up at the right time this year, maybe we can get a resolution going so that the Veterans of Foreign Wars can step up in the future, as we've done for the last 115 years, led the way for veteran and veteran family benefits. If it hadn't been for the VFW, regardless of what American Legion, Disabled Veterans, and all the other organizations say, we are the largest legislative body in the world for veteran benefits, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and that's what we do, and that's what we're all about. And if anybody knows any veterans that need help, see a veteran service officer with a VFW. It's going to be a difference. No matter where you go, what you do, we're running 94% approval rate on our claims, and these veterans deserve it, so do their families. And we need this law passed. We need this medicinal issue passed, and we need to get regulations going in our behalf to save our families and ourselves from prosecution, persecution, and guarantee a future for our loved ones and our family members. That this is going to change humanity. I kind of feel like Billy Graham and Oral Roberts and Jesse Jackson all mixed into one for some reason, trying to give a message out that, oh, the world's going to be different, I got a dream too. But the thing of it is, I really do feel that this is going to make some changes in humanity, because it sure as heck made a change in all the people that I've encountered, and for a positive way. I've never seen any negativity in this. And I want you all to know, not one single person has come to me in the last 2 years that I started this, by a year and a half, I guess. Not one single person has said one negative thing to me, except for one old retired, 38-year retired DEA agent, that I don't know how I won't say it. But anyway, come on, he is a little bit of a space cadet. But, you know, that just goes to show you. I had respect for his feelings. I told him, look, he's sitting in my bar, he's not even a member of the VFW, he's sitting in my bar at the VFW, coming down on me, and I told him, you know, right now, you're drunk, I'm gonna wait, and we'll get together sometime when you're not drunk, and maybe I can talk some sense into you, because you've got to think about the future. And he goes, the future is here now, and he goes, you're the one that's gonna destroy our country. You're gonna have to deal with people like that. But that's not the time to step up and blow smoke in their face, so to speak. Okay? That's why we're here in America. That's why millions of men and women have died, so every one of us can be sitting under this cover right now, talking about and discussing a controversial issue, to say the least, and not have to worry about a sniper hopefully taking one of us out, or blowing our car up, or worry about somebody flying over and dropping a bomb on our house. We need to change all that too, because we shouldn't be doing that overseas either. But that's for another issue. But, you know, we got them smoking over there, they probably quit all that crap too. You know? Last thing anybody wants to do is cause trouble after they've medicated themselves. Have you ever seen anybody I'm not talking about drinking also, I'm talking about just medicating themselves. Have you ever seen anybody jump up and down, act crazy, go insane, and want to stab somebody, or rob a bank, or steal a car?
Nancy Grace does. No. She finds those people.
Nancy Grace, no. No. Hey, listen, wait a minute. Nancy Grace is far, I've talked to her. Nancy Grace is far medicinal. She's not far recreational, because she's had bad experiences in her life with people that was poly drug abusers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Multiple drug abusers. You know, they're doing meth, cocaine, heroin, smoking pot, drinking, and everything else. And that's the type of people that she was around. And I can respect her, and we have to respect her, because she has that right to disagree with us. But listen to their whole message. Not everybody's against us in any way. Most of the people say, I'm not for legalization. But if you narrow them down about medicinal, all of a sudden they go, well, that's a little different, you know. And we need to respect that opinion. We need to get our foot in the door, make some small changes at first, and then we can come back and add amendments to things, get things right. And how many people here has been in one of the medicinal or recreational states that it's been approved? How many people here has been there? Isn't it a wonderful environment? I mean,
yeah. Oh, it's just.
I mean, I don't know what to say. You go there and everybody's happy, And I mean, I know everybody's not happy anywhere, but maybe I'm looking through all this with rosy glasses. I don't think so, because I'm going to tell you what, all I see, I mean, I can't go anywhere without thinking somebody's going to hit me. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the life I've led from 68 to 08 for 40 years, you know. And the reason I'm standing here is because I've been damn concerned about who's been around me and what they're thinking. Because most people, wherever I was over the world, certainly didn't want me there. And I understand now why. But some of us have to do that, and I felt like I would never change it. I know that sounds crazy, but I did what I was told to do. And at that time, I raised my right hand and said, I will do what you tell me to do, including up to and giving my life, if that's what becomes necessary. And millions of people have done that. And so that we can all be sitting here. So God bless you all. If you have any more questions, feel free to bring them up.
Question. You mentioned Johnny Morris earlier.
Uh-huh.
And he's a big person in this area. Have you ever spoke with him about that? Backing it? And
We'll just say that
He's
we're-
against it.
no, let's just say that it's a work in progress right now. His outward attitude in certain environments kind of leans towards the fact that he's really against this. It's sort of like McCaskill and Blunt. They can say anything that they want to, but how many people know any of the members of the family of the McCaskills or Blunts? Does anybody know any of the members of the family? Oh, okay. Well, if you did, you would know what I was talking about. Okay? Because all those people have nothing against what we do. She's not against medicinal either, and Blunt is not either. And I know you may think that's not true, but I'll be in Washington, D.C. in next week or so, and I'll be sitting down with both of them again. And this time it won't be it will not be about any other issue but this one, because I want to hear it straight from their mouths, and they want to hear what I have to say to them, and not through one of their people. And I think that shows you what kind of character of people they are. Don't come down on these politicians. Don't come down on any of these politicians, because there's no reason to. Everybody's bringing up some of the ones down south that give us some grief. They've been, they call them they're Nazis because they're against what we do. That's not the attitude to have. They've got that right to feel that way. And there may be a passion, there may be a reason why they feel that way. And if you really want to help maybe change that attitude, what you need to do is find out what those people's passions are and work on those passions and try to understand where they're coming from and somehow communicate with them and help them understand where you're coming from. And that's what we're in the process of doing. So some of the people that you think is 100% against it, they have not been educated, nor have they been told or heard the message. And Johnny's a good man. The Waltons are good people. And I'm telling you that it's just a matter of getting to these people, communicating with them, and them not being browbeaten or made to be embarrassed or made a fool of, because they may not necessarily think as strongly about what we do as we do.
You know, what's funny about that is a lot of people think that those that are for it are users.
Right.
You know, I had a friend of mine, and I've known this lady for I don't know how long. There was a time her husband and she and my wife and I went out every Friday night. We've known them for years. Facebook friends, Facebook friends. She found out that I was for it, she took me off the Facebook page.
God forbid.
I asked her, I said, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, you post a lot of stuff on there about that. Yes, ma'am, I do. And you know what? I don't have breast cancer either, but I'm a breast cancer awareness person. You know, I'm an advocate for breast cancer. I want people to be aware. Let's get this going to these people. So what makes you take me off my friends list, or your friends list, for posting stuff that maybe I believe that you don't, but yet I believe a lot of things that you believe, and I'm not even a partaker, you know?
See, those are the type of people that we need to reach out, and you did a really good job by saying that to her, because that got her thinking, I'm sure.
No, I didn't. You got her laughing.
Well,
You know, you don't want to laugh, that's fine. I've got
but
other
see, she
times.
has that right.
You know.
She has that right. And we should not persecute these people for not feeling exactly the way we feel.
Well, I've never had breast cancer. I've got a sister that's had both breasts removed, but therefore it makes me an advocate. But I've never had breast cancer. So why should you point the finger at me
Well,
for something that you're not aware
some
of?
people's just not as open-minded for obvious reasons
Right.
than others. But you know, when people do not necessarily agree with us, sometimes it's best to change the subject or go on about your business and kind of let God sort it out, let their minds chill out, and don't try to push this issue onto anybody, especially family members. You don't want to wreck your family. I wish I had a family to communicate with.
You do now, yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's just important that you maintain that personal relationship with your loved ones, regardless of what. Sometimes you got to suck it up. Sometimes you need to shut up, and sometimes you need to listen up. And those are all things that is important for you to think about when you're communicating with people out there in the world, in here, and at home, and with your family.
On a percentage base, I mean, I understand you're a busy man with everything you do. On a percentage base, how much of your time would you say that you spend for this cause?
Well, I've adjusted all my, it's really strange. Before, I was totally saturated with BFW as I was coming up through the chairs and everything. And then just about the time that I was ready to possibly go on to national or something like that, I decided I didn't want any more of the BFW. I just wanted out. And then all this stuff happened. All these people started coming to me. And then I got on this bandwagon, on this cause, and I'm alive again, you know. And how much time? I think I spend almost all my time now thinking and concerned about these issues. It's addictive. It is addictive, but anytime you're doing something that you feel is the right thing to do, it's so much easier to do it, even though there may be a lot of negativity in the world about it. I don't know, for some unknown reason, that negativity has not confronted my face.
Even when it does, you just pick yourself up and move on and know that you're doing something.
Right. Right. You know, violence is the last thing on earth that anybody in this room should ever consider for any reason, for anything, and what it is. This nation needs to realize what democracy is about, and democracy is about humanitarianism. And this movement that we've got going right now is going to reinstill humanitarianism in our country, in our culture. Instead of going over and dropping bombs and firing bullets and destroying countries because they may not necessarily agree with our way of life or agree with something a politician or someone said. If we went over there and rebuilt their country's infrastructure and put sewer systems in, water, purify their water, give them reliable electricity, their world will be different. And there'll be smiles and happiness on their faces and in their hearts instead of tears and cries of pain and anguish. Because that's what we do overseas. And it's terrible. And I'm probably one of the most guilty ones of all, because there really aren't, I know you think this is probably total BS, but there are not that many people that really do what I consider some really terrible work. even though they've got us convinced that it was right when we were doing it, and I still feel that way. I realize now that I think all the leaders, the Indians had something cool in their heads when they used to pass the peace pipe. And I made that suggestion when I was in Iran. I lived in Iran for 4 years, and when I was training Mujahideen for bin Laden. When Osama bin Laden, of course before he hit the towers, he was trying to get rid of the Russians. I guarantee you, my friends, that if we kept our word as a country and a nation, bin Laden would have never done what he did. But it was because of the DIA and CIA that made promises and just embellished him and his cause with all kinds of futuristic things that was going to be done for his people after the war was over. That's why that happened. If they would have sat down and smoked the peace pipe amongst the leaders, and over there, it's basically opium, but it's the raw opium. It's like pot, it's like marijuana, it's like cannabis. It's natural. It's not the synthesized crap that we've got on the market today. It's different. It calms people down, it energizes them, it gives them a better understanding of themselves and others. I've seen it and experienced it all over the world. And I'm not advocating that. I'm saying I'm advocating the fact, the ritual of sitting down, doing something in common that relieves their anxiety and their stress and opens their mind to creativity and a better way of thinking, non-hostile way of thinking. Because I don't think anybody ever thinks hostilities in their mind after they medicate themselves. How many people really have ever really thought about grabbing an axe and going out and doing something stupid? I mean, I was going to say go after your mother-in-law. I've done that a couple times. No, I'm just kidding. I love my mother-in-law. I wish she was around too. But cherish your family, cherish your loved ones, have respect for yourself, and have patience with yourself, and have patience with others. Because this is not a slow process. Just because you got a little setback now, that does not mean things are not going to happen. Things are going to happen. When? We don't know exactly, but keep your spirit up, your heart up, and know that this is the beginning of a new era, a new time in our society. God bless you all.
Our chapter, since we came down here, wanted to give you a little gift bag.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
We only give out yearly memberships in our chapter, so we made an exception with you. There's no expiration date on your membership.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to carry this with pride, and hopefully I'll never lose it, but being a guy, what can I say? I'm sure the ladies understand that. But I really appreciate it, and don't do anything stupid. No, I'm serious. Don't do anything stupid. You know, it's not worth it. Your freedom is not worth it, and right now, if you're stupid, you can lose your freedom. And it's not funny. At the least, it's going to cost you a bundle of money. And it's just not worth it. Have patience and know that eventually things are going to work out in our behalf. Okay? Thank you very much.